The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called Seven, and it was the largest meeting place in the known galaxy. Ships from 100 different worlds came here to trade, to talk, and to make peace. The Galactic Coalition had built this station 3,000 years ago, and in all that time, one rule had never changed. All visitors must give up their weapons before entering. This rule existed because the Coalition believed that creatures without weapons could not hurt each other. They were wrong. The human ship arrived on a cold morning by station time. It was a small vessel, and simple, nothing like the golden cruisers of the or the massive war barges of the. Ambassador watched it dock from his observation window. He was a creature that looked something like a giant insect with 6 eyes and 4 arms. His people had been part of the Coalition for 2,000 years. They considered themselves wise and powerful. Had read the reports about humans. They came from a small blue planet called Earth. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. They were soft, with no natural armor. They had no claws, no venom, no special abilities. Did not understand why the Council had invited them to join the Coalition. They seemed useless. The human delegation walked through the entry gates. There were 12 of them wearing simple uniforms. Noticed that they moved differently than other species. They walked with a strange kind of confidence, like predators who knew they were dangerous. But that made no sense. These creatures had no weapons now. The security scanners had taken everything. Captain Lee led the group. He was a tall man with a calm face and intelligent eyes. Behind him walked his team, including a woman named Park. She was not tall, not large, not impressive in any physical way. She had dark hair tied back and wore the same uniform as everyone else. She carried nothing in her hands. Stepped forward to greet them. His translator device hummed as he spoke. "Welcome to Seven. I am Ambassador. I hope your journey was pleasant." Captain Lee bowed his head slightly. "Thank you, Ambassador. We are honored to be here." The formalities continued for several minutes. Found the humans polite but strange. They smiled too much. They made eye contact in ways that felt aggressive, and they kept looking around the station as if they were memorizing every exit and corner. The trouble started when they entered the main hall. A mercenary had been drinking at one of the trading posts. There were large reptilian creatures, covered in thick scales. They stood twice as tall as humans and had claws that could cut through metal. This particular had lost money gambling and he was angry. When he saw the human delegation, he saw easy targets. "Small creatures," the growled, stepping into their path. "Weak little things with no weapons. What are you doing in this place?" Captain Lee raised his hand, signaling his team to stay calm. "We are here as guests of the Coalition. We want no trouble." The laughed. It was an ugly sound. "No trouble, you are trouble. Your kind does not belong here." He looked at the humans with hungry eyes. "Maybe I will teach you a lesson about the galaxy." Watched from a distance. He knew he should call security, but part of him was curious. How would these soft creatures handle a warrior? They would probably run, or beg. That was what weak species did. The lunged at Captain Lee, his claws extended, ready to tear flesh. Several alien observers screamed. What happened next would change everything. Sergeant Park moved. She did not run away. She did not scream. She stepped forward toward the attack as if she wanted to meet it. Her body twisted in a way that seemed impossible. She grabbed this arm and pulled. At the same time, her hip connected with his body, and she used his own weight against him. The flew through the air. He was 3 times her size, but he flew like a leaf in the wind. He crashed into a display console and did not get up. The sound of his body hitting the metal echoed through the silent hall. Stood calmly, her breathing steady. She had not used any weapon. She had not used any technology. She had only used her hands and her body. 6 eyes blinked in confusion. His mind could not process what he had seen. The was unconscious, possibly injured, and the human woman had done it with nothing but her bare hands. What was that? demanded, walking toward the humans. "What technology did you use? What hidden weapon?" Turned to face him, her expression was polite but firm. "No technology, Ambassador, no weapon, just training." "Training?" repeated the word as if it was foreign. "You are trained to fight without weapons." Captain Lee stepped forward. "All humans receive some form of combat training, Ambassador. Sergeant Park is particularly skilled. On Earth, we call her Art Hapkido. It is one of many fighting styles we have developed." Felt something he had not felt in many years: fear. These small, soft creatures had turned their own bodies into weapons. They did not need claws or guns or technology. They were dangerous all by themselves. Around the hall, dozens of aliens were recording the scene with their devices. Within hours, the video would spread across the coalition. Within days, every species in the galaxy would know what humans could do. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The video spread like fire through dry grass. Every news channel in the coalition played it again and again. A small human woman throwing a warrior through the air with her bare hands. No weapons, no technology, just her body. Within 3 days, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Chamber of 7. They sat in curved rows that rose toward the ceiling like a giant bowl. In the center of this bowl stood a single platform. Captain Lee stood on this platform alone, facing thousands of alien eyes. The Supreme Chancellor, an ancient being made of living crystal, spoke first. "Human representative, you will explain what we witnessed. How did your soldier defeat a warrior without any weapon?" Bowed respectfully. "Honored Chancellor, what you saw was not magic or technology. It was martial arts, a system of fighting that uses only the body." He pressed a button on his device and a holographic image appeared above him. It showed fight in slow motion. Every movement was visible now. The way she stepped to the side, the way she grabbed this arm, the way she used his own force to throw him. "Humans have no claws," continued. "We have no armor or venom. When our ancestors lived on Earth thousands of years ago, they were surrounded by predators, animals with sharp teeth and strong bodies. Our ancestors had to find another way to survive." The chamber was silent. Every creature watched and listened. "They learned to use their minds," said. "They studied how bodies move. They discovered that strength is not everything. A small creature can defeat a large one if it understands balance, momentum, and pressure points. Over thousands of years, we developed hundreds of different fighting styles. We call them martial arts." The military commander stood up from his seat. He was larger than Ambassador, with darker armor and colder eyes. "You are saying that all humans can fight like this?" "Not all," admitted. "Sergeant Park is exceptional. But yes, most humans receive some training. In our schools, children learn to defend themselves starting at a young age. In our military, soldiers must master at least one style of hand-to-hand combat." Mandibles clicked with displeasure. "You train your children to fight. You turn them into weapons." "We train them to survive," corrected. "On Earth, we have a saying, the body is a weapon. A human is never truly unarmed." In the upper rows of the chamber watched the proceedings with wide eyes. She was only 19 years old, the youngest member of the human delegation. She had started learning Taekwondo when she was 5. By 12, she had earned her black belt. She had never thought of herself as dangerous. Fighting was just something humans did, like eating or sleeping. It was normal. But looking at the alien faces around her, she understood that it was not normal. Not for them. These creatures had evolved with natural weapons, claws and fangs and armor. They had never needed to learn how to fight with empty hands. The very idea seemed impossible to them. A delegate rose from its pool of liquid. There were soft, boneless creatures that looked like floating jellyfish. They communicated through patterns of light that flashed across their bodies. The translator converted these flashes into words. "This is disturbing news," they said. "Humans are more dangerous than we believed. Perhaps they should not be allowed in the coalition." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Raised his hands, asking for silence. "I understand your concern," he said, "but please consider this. In our history, humans have used martial arts not just for war but for peace. Our fighting styles teach discipline. They teach respect. They teach that true strength is knowing when not to fight." He paused, letting his words settle. "We did not attack he attacked us. Sergeant Park used only the force necessary to stop him. She could have killed him easily. She chose not to. That is what martial arts teaches. Control." The Supreme Chancellor's crystal body hummed with thought. "You speak of control, but what happens when humans lose control? What happens when your species decides to use these abilities for conquest?" Met the Chancellor's eyes without fear. "Then you will have a serious problem, Chancellor. But that is not who we are. Humans want to join the coalition as friends, not conquerors. We want to share our knowledge, not hide it." "Share?" Commander laughed. "You would teach other species to fight like humans." "If they wish to learn, yes." The chamber exploded into noise. Some delegates shouted in anger. Others called for order. A few, noticed, looked interested. A species called who had lost their home planet to the long ago, watched with hungry eyes. They had no military power. They had been victims for centuries. Now they were seeing a new possibility. The Supreme Chancellor raised a crystalline hand and silence returned. "This matter requires more discussion. For now, the human delegation will remain on 7 as guests. We will observe them. We will learn more about their abilities." Bowed again. "Thank you, Chancellor. We welcome your observation." As he walked off the platform, he caught her eye and gave her a small nod. The message was clear. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching humanity now, and humanity had to show them who they really were. Commander could not sleep. For 5 nights after the council meeting, he lay awake in his quarters, thinking about the humans. His species, had built an empire. They had conquered 11 worlds. Their soldiers wore the finest armor and carried the most powerful weapons. They were feared across the galaxy. And now, a small human woman had defeated a warrior with her bare hands. Told himself it was a trick, some kind of hidden technology. Maybe the humans had implants in their bodies. Maybe they used invisible force fields. There had to be an explanation. The alternative was too terrible to accept. On the 6th night, made a decision. He would prove that humans were not special. He would expose their lies in front of the entire galaxy. The challenge was announced the next morning. Commander, speaking for the military, demanded a formal combat demonstration. 1 champion against 1 human fighter. No weapons, no armor, no technology, just bodies. The fight would be broadcast across the coalition network. Billions of creatures on thousands of worlds would watch. Captain Lee received the challenge in his quarters. He read it twice, then called Sergeant Park. "They want to fight," he said simply. Nodded. She had expected this. "Who is their champion?" "A soldier named. He is their finest warrior. He has won 37 arena battles. He has never lost." "What species has he fought?" Several others paused. "Never a human." Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had trained for this moment her entire life. "I will fight him." The arena was built in the center of 7. It was a circular platform surrounded by thousands of seats. Giant screens floated above, showing every angle of the fighting area. The seats were filled with creatures from across the galaxy. The screens were connected to broadcast networks that reached every corner of known space. Sat in the human section, her heart beating fast. Around her, the other members of the delegation tried to look calm. They failed. Everyone knew what this fight meant. If lost, humans would be seen as weak. Their claims about martial arts would become a joke. But if she won? Walked into the arena wearing a simple white uniform. It was called the traditional clothing for Korean martial arts. She wore no armor, no padding, no protection of any kind. Her feet were bare. Her hands were empty. On the other side of the arena emerged from the entrance. He was massive. His body was covered in natural armor, thick plates of chitin that could stop a knife. He had 4 arms, each ending in claws that looked sharp enough to cut steel. His eyes were black and empty, like holes in space. The crowd fell silent as the two fighters faced each other. Was 3 times his size. He looked like a monster from a nightmare. She looked like a dancer at a peaceful ceremony. An official stepped forward. This is a formal challenge under coalition law. The fight continues until one fighter cannot continue or surrenders. There are no other rules. Begin when ready. Wasted no time. He roared and charged at, all 4 arms reaching for her. His claws cut through the air like swords. Any normal creature would have been torn apart in seconds. Was not a normal creature. She moved to the side, just barely avoiding his first attack. Her body flowed like water, smooth and controlled, turned and attacked again. She dodged again. He was faster than they had been, but was faster still. The crowd watched in confusion. The human was not fighting back. She was only dodging. Some of them laughed. Maybe she was afraid. Maybe she knew she could not win. Knew better, she recognized what was doing. It was called reading, was studying her opponent, learning how he moved, finding his weaknesses. Attacked again and again. Each time avoided him by the smallest possible distance. She never wasted energy. She never showed fear. She simply moved and watched and waited. Then she saw it, a pattern. Always dropped his left shoulder before attacking with his upper arms. It was a tiny movement, almost invisible, but to his trained eyes it was like a signal. The next time dropped his shoulder, did not dodge. She stepped forward. Her palm struck a point on his neck, just below his armored head. It was a pressure point, a place where nerves gathered close to the surface. They did not know they had such weak spots, had studied their biology for weeks before the fight. Stumbled, his 4 arms went weak for just a moment. That moment was enough. Grabbed one of his arms and twisted. Her body spun like a top, using his own weight against him. Flew through the air, crashing onto his back. Before he could rise, was on him. Her elbow pressed against another pressure point on his chest. Her knee locked one of his arms in place. Struggled, but every movement only made the hold. Had turned his own strength into a trap. "Surrender," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. His black eyes showed something they had never shown before: fear. He tapped the ground with his free arm, the sign of defeat. The fight had lasted 43 seconds. The arena was silent for a long moment. Then the section began to cheer. Others joined them. Soon the entire arena was filled with noise. On thousands of worlds, billions of creatures watched a small human woman stand over a fallen giant. Bowed to her defeated opponent, showing respect even in victory. Then she walked out of the arena without looking back. The message was clear. Humans were not weak. Humans were not helpless. Humans had turned their own bodies into the deadliest weapons in the galaxy. And the galaxy would never forget it. The galaxy split into 2 groups after the arena fight. Some species looked at humans with fear. Others looked at them with hope. The Dominion was the first to act from fear. 3 days after its victory, they pulled their ambassador from 7. Their message to the coalition was simple and angry. Humans are dangerous. They should be removed from coalition space. If the Council does not act, the Dominion will. They agreed. They sent a formal request to the Council asking for restrictions on human travel. These creatures can kill without weapons, their message said. They cannot be trusted. They cannot be controlled. Other species followed. A species of flying reptiles refused to allow human ships near their worlds. The Crystalline Collective, beings made of living stone, declared humans to be biological weapons, and demanded their removal from all shared stations. Captain Lee watched these reactions with a heavy heart. He had hoped that humans would be welcomed into the galaxy. Instead, they were being treated like monsters. "They do not understand," he told one evening. They were sitting in the human quarters on 7, watching news reports on a holographic screen. Every channel showed the same thing: fear, anger, distrust. Sipped her tea calmly. "They understand perfectly. That is why they are afraid." "What do you mean?" "For thousands of years, these species believed that weapons made them strong. Take away their weapons and they become helpless. That is how they think." She set down her cup. "We showed them something different. We showed them that strength comes from within, that a creature can be dangerous without any external tool. That idea terrifies them." Nodded slowly. "Because if we can do it, maybe others can too." "Exactly. We broke their understanding of the universe. Now they have to build a new one. That process is painful. Some will react with fear. Others," she smiled, "others will react with curiosity." She was right. Not all species feared humans. Some were fascinated. They were the first to ask for help. They were a gentle species, small and soft-bodied, with large eyes and thin limbs. 300 years ago, they had invaded their home world. They had no military. They could not fight back. Billions died. The survivors became refugees, scattered across the galaxy. Now, for the first time, they saw hope. Their leader, an old female named Elder, came to the human quarters with a humble request. "We have heard about your training, your martial arts. We wish to learn." Was surprised. "You want us to teach you to fight." "We want you to teach us to defend ourselves," Elder corrected. "For 300 years we have been victims. We have begged other species for protection. We have hidden in the shadows of the galaxy. We are tired of being weak." Stepped forward. She had been listening from the corner of the room. "I can teach you." Everyone turned to look at her. She was the youngest person in the room, barely 19 years old, but her eyes were serious. "I started training when I was 5, she said. "Taekwondo. It is a Korean martial art focused on kicks and speed. They have long legs. This style might suit them." Elder studied the young human. "You are willing to share your knowledge with us, even though we are strangers, even though we have nothing to offer in return." Smiled. "On Earth, we have a tradition. A teacher's greatest honor is to see their student grow strong. I do not need payment. I need only your dedication." The first class began the next day. 12 students gathered in an empty cargo bay that had converted into a training hall. They wore simple clothes and stood in nervous rows. Walked before them, her movements smooth and confident. "The first lesson is not about fighting," she said. "It is about breathing. Close your eyes. Feel the air entering your body. Feel it filling your lungs. This is where strength begins, not in your muscles, in your breath." They closed their large eyes and breathed. Across the station, Ambassador watched through a security camera. His feelings were complicated. Part of him still distrusted humans. Part of him was starting to admire them. He went to visit Captain Lee that evening. "Your people confuse me," admitted. They were standing on an observation deck, watching ships come and go from the station. "How so?" "You are dangerous. The arena fight proved that. You could use your abilities to conquer, to dominate. Instead, you choose to teach, to share. Why?" Thought for a moment. "Because we were once weak too. Long ago, humans were prey animals. We had no claws, no speed, no armor. Everything we have, we built. Our technology, our cities, our martial arts. We survived by learning, by adapting, by helping each other." He turned to face. "We do not want to rule the galaxy, Ambassador. We want to be part of it. And the best way to do that is to lift others up, not push them down." Was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "They will not accept this. They see your kindness as weakness. They will try to destroy you." "We know. And you are not afraid." Smiled. It was the same smile had shown before the arena fight. Confident, Ready. Ambassador, we have been fighting threats for our entire existence. They are just another challenge. We will face them the same way we face everything else. How is that? Together. 1 year passed since humans first arrived at 7. In that time, everything changed. Had trained over 200 students. Some had become teachers themselves, spreading martial arts to other communities. The first Taekwondo school had opened on a refugee station near space. It was a small building, nothing special, but it was a symbol of hope. The had changed too. After the arena fight, Young began asking questions. How had a human defeated their greatest champion? What secrets did they know? A few brave ones approached the human delegation and asked to learn. Sergeant Park agreed to teach them. It was strange at first. They had 4 arms and hard shells. Human techniques did not work perfectly for their bodies, but adapted. She created new forms, new movements designed specifically for anatomy. She called it Hapkido. Even Commander, who had issued the arena challenge, came to watch one of her classes. He did not speak. He did not participate. But he watched with careful eyes, and when the class ended, he bowed his head slightly toward. It was the sign of respect. Not everyone was happy with these changes. The Dominion grew more angry with each passing month. They saw humans as a threat to their power. For centuries, they had used their strength to bully weaker species. Now those species were learning to fight back. The attack came on a cold morning by station time. Trade Station Omega-9 was a small outpost near the edge of Coalition space. It was run by a place where refugees could find shelter and supplies. A human security team of 6 soldiers was stationed there, along with 30 who had completed its training program. They sent 50 warriors. They arrived in assault ships, heavily armed and hungry for violence. Their commander was a massive named. He had killed hundreds of creatures in his life. He believed this attack would be easy. He was wrong. The first soldiers burst through the station's main entrance, expecting to find terrified victims. Instead, they found Sergeant standing in the middle of the corridor. She was a small woman with short hair and calm eyes. She wore no armor. She carried no weapon. "You should leave," she said quietly. Laughed, "1 human against 50. You are brave but stupid." Shook her head, "Not 1 human, look again." The looked, from the shadows emerged, dozens of them. They moved differently than expected. Their bodies were low and balanced. Their eyes were focused and unafraid. These were not the weak refugees they remembered. These were warriors. The battle began. It was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They had claws and strength. The defenders had training and teamwork, moved through the enemy like a ghost, striking pressure points and breaking joints. They fought beside her, using kicks that sent warriors crashing into walls. They had weapons, but in the close corridors of the station, their guns were useless. Every time they tried to aim, a defender was already too close. Every time they swung their claws, their target had already moved. Watched his soldiers fall one by one. He could not understand it. His warriors were stronger. They had better equipment, but they were losing. He charged at himself, roaring with rage. His claws slashed through the air with enough force to cut through metal. Did not run. She stepped to the side, grabbed his arm and twisted, felt his own body betray him. His weight shifted. His balance disappeared. He flew through the air and crashed onto his back. Before he could rise, foot was on his throat, not pressing hard enough to kill, just hard enough to make a point. "Surrender," she said. The same word had spoken to 1 year ago. Looked around. His warriors were on the ground, defeated by creatures half their size. His pride screamed at him to keep fighting, but his brain knew the truth. He had lost. He tapped the ground, the sign of defeat. When coalition reinforcements arrived an hour later, they found the station secure. 50 warriors sat in a cargo bay, guarded by Inhumans. No one had died. The defenders had used only the force necessary to stop the attack, nothing more. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. Captain Lee received a message from the Galactic Council that evening. The Supreme Chancellor wanted to speak with him personally. "We have watched your people for 1 year," the Chancellor said. "We have seen your strength. We have seen your kindness. We have seen you lift up the weak and face down the strong. We were wrong to fear you." Bode, thank you, Chancellor. The Council has voted. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Coalition. More than that, we wish to adopt your training methods. We want to establish schools across Coalition space. We want every species to learn what you have taught them. On 7 received the news with tears in her eyes. 1 year ago she had been a young recruit, unsure of her place in the galaxy. Now her students were heroes. Her art was spreading to the stars. Park stood beside her, watching the celebrations. "You did well," she said. "We did well," corrected, "all of us together." That night, beings across the galaxy looked up at the stars with new eyes. They had learned something important. Strength was not about weapons or claws or armor. Strength was about training, discipline, and the courage to face any challenge. The humans had taught them this truth, and the galaxy had finally listened. In the archives of 7, the recording of arena fights still played on repeat. Billions had watched it. Billions more would watch it in the years to come. It had become the most viewed video in Coalition history. A small human woman, a giant warrior, and a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Humans were not weak. Humans were not helpless. Humans had spent thousands of years preparing for battles they might never face. They had turned their own bodies into weapons. They had learned that true strength came from within. And now they had shared that strength with the universe. The age of humanity had truly begun, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as teachers, protectors, and friends. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time in 3,000 years, it was learning something new.